Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday night, and it's time for Ben Stowe answers all of your questions. That's right. Every question you've ever had, every question you will have, and every question that the guy next to you has tonight will be answered.
Where do babies come from?
No, not that one.
Oh, that's good because I don't know.
That would be a bad. We wouldn't have our rating anymore. Our PG rating would be like right through the end.
We did answer why the sky is blue early in the series, I think.
We did. That was a question. It was a real honest to goodness question someone had asked, kind of as on a lark, but
maybe we should narrow the topic tonight.
We could. We're gonna talk about batteries. I was looking. It's like I have my one prop. Batteries.
John's got a prop. Yay, John's got a prop.
I have a prop, and that's over. So we're going to talk about batteries then, because this is a question actually that came in from a viewer. They were asking about the best batteries for their different applications, and I thought, this is a topic we've really never dug into. So I figured, who else would be better than to talk about electricity and creating things with mobile electronic sources that could give people shocks?
Well, it's a complicated topic, actually. You'd think it's simple. I mean, I think batteries are something that everybody sees every day. They're ubiquitous, and we kind of feel like we know them. We've been using them since we were kids. But they're incredibly complicated, and there are some things that I knew from my years of experience in the industry, and also my time in school. But I actually did a little bit of research for tonight's show, and I learned something. I learned how complicated batteries are.
They are just this little tube that works.
Well, I guess what I learned is how complicated batteries are for the consumer. We know there's all these different kinds of batteries. There's zinc carbon, and there's alkaline, and which are primarily manganese and whatever. And there's rechargeables of nickel metal and nickel cadmium and lead acid and lithium ion and lithium polymer, and but I sort of almost feel bad for the consumer with the overwhelming number of choices out there. I will say this, I dealing with batteries for wireless applications like wireless microphones, and even more critically so, the work that I do with college football teams. Maybe you've seen the commercial on TV where it shows the NFL pack and it shows the batteries in it. It's a battery commercial. And people say, do those packs really use 9-volt batteries? And I said, yeah, they really do. And people think, wow, that's crazy. And I said, no, not really, because you can get a 9-volt battery anywhere. And so, no matter what happens, no matter who forgets to charge the batteries or whatever, you can always get 9-volt batteries somewhere and they could charge these packs. And anyway, so when we sell these intercom systems to these college football teams, these are systems that are between $50,000 and $80,000. They're it's not pocket change for anybody. And every now and then we'll get a university that wants to kind of cheap on the battery.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, don't do it. Just get a good quality Energizer or Duracell, alkaline battery, and you're good. And every now and then we'll get one that gets the cheap brand, and they don't realize maybe these are zinc carbon instead of alkaline, or they're just, whatever. And I'll never forget, I'm on the sidelines of the stadium, 100,000 people in the stands, nationally televised game, ESPN, the whole 9 yards. And normally a good solid alkaline battery from Energizer or Duracell, your standard, like your prop.
Mm-hmm.
Hold up your prop, John.
Make sure you get it right, so we can.
There you go. Normally those will last an entire game, and through the pregame of the next game, we use those just to sort of keep the transmitters on and kind of be broadcasting in the airspace. And then we always change to fresh batteries before kickoff. And so, plenty of life in them. Well, this game I'm at with, like I said, 100,000 people in the crowds and nationally televised and all the pomp and circumstance of the spectacle that is college football in the United States, they had bought some of these cheap batteries. I'm not going to name names.
Jimmy's naming names in the chat room. Naughty Jimmy.
Well, I can't see the chat room, so
there we go.
Yeah. But here's the deal: we're trying to figure out how we're going to get more batteries at halftime, because by the second quarter, these batteries are already dying. And, we got this $80,000 intercom system that's being compromised by these cheap batteries. And I mean, getting out of a Division I college football stadium on a Saturday afternoon during a game to go to the store is not as easy a task as it sounds. So, we're trying to figure out how we can get to a vehicle, how somebody can get to the store and get batteries. And I'm just beside myself. I'm like, I told you, don't do this. So I got to use that story for years to caution other schools to say, look, you just spent, a king's ransom on an intercom. Pony up for the better batteries, So there we go. Get us kicked off that way, I guess.
Just following along, following some of. Yeah, Jimmy mentioned, of course, a Harbor Freight sells. A lot of stores sell their name brand or their own brand batteries, and
maybe we'll touch on that a little bit because there's an interesting study I want to hold for later. But something that I found was interesting there.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, let's do a little history lesson.
Okay.
Because I believe if I was following the chat room before we started, they were wanting to get a history lesson on batteries tonight. I mean, that's really what we're here for.
Well, good, because it's interesting that literally right above this webcam, and so of course you can't see it, but right up here, maybe we could do this. There we go, up on the wall. We have all these famous dead people.
None of them are Jedi, so I'm really disappointed.
No, but they're better than Jedis because as big a Star Wars fan as I am, these guys are real.
That makes a difference.
And we have two names up there that are critically important in batteries. One being Benjamin Franklin, who actually coined the term battery. And this might surprise people. Of course, if you think about when Ben Franklin was around, Alessandro Volta, for whom we've named the Volt, actually came after him. So we didn't have a name for the Volt when Franklin was playing with electricity. And we also can thank Volta for the voltaic pile, which is one of the very first batteries in modern existence, but not by any means one of the first batteries. And in fact, let me see here if I'm clever enough to share the screen. Let's do a little screen sharing here. There you go.
Yep, we're good.
That is a 2,000-year-old battery, known, I guess, in the community as the Baghdad battery, but a early, basically clay pot, iron rod, chemical composition battery, not all that dissimilar, I guess, than what we use now. Of course, we've really perfected the process now. And just for fun, this is another electrical storage device we call a Leyden jar. So, fun to think that batteries have been around for 2,000 years and even hundreds of years in that sense.
Speculate a little bit for me. What would that early Baghdad battery, what would they have used it for? I mean, obviously their radios were probably plug-in at the time.
I would think, yeah. I've read a lot of different theories, and not recently, so I guess I'm not up on it. But what I came away with was that nobody really knows why. There was thought that maybe it was used to create, electrical sensation, which someone might interpret as a religious experience, or that maybe it was used for health and medicine. I don't know.
Okay.
So this is something I think if viewers are curious, they should go.
No, Jimmy, it wasn't that.
Well, I don't even want to know, do I?
Yeah, no.
Anyway, we know what we use our batteries for.
Yes.
Cutting the cord. By the way, I'm sorry. I have to give an attribution to that picture because I borrowed that picture from the Commons on Wikipedia. That was picked by Alvin Roon. So I want to give proper credit for that picture of the Leyden jar. So thanks for having that out there for me to go swipe off.
Having it, yeah, some neat information. So I think they're getting ready. They're talking about ProCell and Duracell.
Good. Well,
so
We're not going to get too brand specific here. I'll say for the record, I use ProCell. Not because I've done any research that they're better or worse than like the Energizer Max or whatever. I buy them in boxes of 144 for the AA and 72 for the 9-volt, and I have cases of them hanging around. It's just they've worked reliably for me. I do have some data that we've taken from Duracell, and I chose that because I do use ProCell. So I thought, well, I'll just go with what I use, but I have no problem sticking an Energizer battery in there just as quickly. It doesn't really matter. So, just to put that out there. I'm not endorsing ProCell, unless they're paying us, John.
Yeah, no, not yet. But I do have this prop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are the odds? You got a Duracell too.
Duracell prop. Got the copper tab, man.
Yeah, and so I pulled some of that data together, and I figured, I'm just going to kind of let you drive the bus here like usual.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the questions I wanted to be asking. Oscar just brought this up, and if you guys have any questions, just please put those in the chat. We've got a couple of things. Something about, we're talking about leakage, some ideas for leakage in devices, but the first one I want to hit is
take your batteries out of them. Don't leave your batteries in there until they leak.
Come on, Ben. How many times have you gone to a toy that your children have had? They played with it for a while, and then they haven't played with it for a couple of weeks, and then you're thinking, oh, well, they haven't played with it. And then you already find out that the cheap batteries that grandma put into things.
Okay. All right. So, one, don't use cheap batteries. Two, heat is really a big contributor to rupturing and leakage. So avoid the heat's just bad for batteries all the way around. Heat's bad for electronics too. So avoid that. And three, it shouldn't rupture after a couple weeks, but certainly take discharged batteries out of the device. Don't store devices for a long time with batteries in them. You're just asking for trouble at some point. There is that electrolyte inside those batteries that can leak out. So,
and I had that experience with a set of Duracells in one of the microphones, which uses the AA batteries, and the batteries were probably in there for 2 to 3 months. It was used at one event for a few minutes, and that was it. So I didn't think about pulling them out. And I went the other day, turned the mic on, I was using it, and it's like, it works fine, but it's like, I haven't replaced these batteries, and it's a gig coming up. So I popped it open, and one of the batteries, while we still had power, was leaking, and there was corrosion that was going on inside the microphone. So wasn't happy about that.
I would guess, over 2 or 3 months, there's probably maybe something to look at with the storage issue there. Maybe it did get, experience some temperature extremes or something. I don't know. But yeah, anytime you're going to shelf something for a long period of time, just take the batteries out. Always a good idea.
Any suggestions on how to clean the device that once you have battery leakage like that?
Yeah, carefully. Because there could be corrosive materials or things in there that would be bad for you, depending on how bad the corrosion is, whether or not you can do it. I've tried all sorts of things over the years, for light dirt or whatever, or even some of that light corrosion. A pencil eraser actually works all right. I've used steel wool and contact cleaner, and but it just really depends on how bad it is. I've seen this happen too with these football packs where they get really wet and then they get put in the case for the entire off season, and you look and there's just no saving it. You spend more time and energy than just replacing the battery sled that goes in these things. So
yeah, buy a new one.
Yeah, prevention's the best cure here. So.
Okay, so let's take a look at because the question then came up about rechargeables, using rechargeables, or going with alkaline batteries for the different applications.
So it depends. Again, like we talked about, there's a lot of different kinds of batteries: nickel, cadmium, nickel, metal.
For those of you who had 16 minutes into the show before Ben would say it depends, you are the winner. That was one of the pre-show.
There's a pool, huh?
That was one of the pre-show discussions.
It depends on the device, and it also depends on the battery size. And here's a good example. So 9-volt versus AA. 9 volts use multiple cells inside to achieve 9 volts. And a AA cell is 1.5 volts. And by no coincidence, so is each of the what would be 6 cells inside a 9-volt battery. So 6 times 1.5 equals 9. But some rechargeable cells are only 1.2 volts. And so when you take 1.2 times 6, now you're starting with 7.2. And so the usable life of a rechargeable 9-volt lithium, rechargeable 9-volt nickel metal or nickel cadmium is substantially less than that of an alkaline. Very, very low. Lithium, on the other hand, they perform as well as their alkaline counterparts. So if you're going to use a 9-volt battery that's rechargeable, it should be lithium. In the case of AA, the rechargeable batteries often have a longer life than the alkaline. So rechargeable batteries for AA tend to work very well. And nickel metal, is exceptionally good. Lithium is off the charts good. So, there's certainly that option. Now, here's what I'll say. I'm not, I have nothing against Mother Earth, or anything like that. I'm all for recycling and that sort of thing. And in fact, I do have some information on how to recycle your dead batteries. But I use alkaline batteries, and I put a fresh one in before every gig. Pro cells cost me 35 cents. That means for every in-ear pack or every wireless mic, it's 70 cents. You know what? I'm getting paid well enough. I don't care. I'm not using rechargeables. I'm not trying to milk that battery from one gig to the next. My kids have boxes of 2/3 full batteries, but it just doesn't matter. Before that gig starts, I'm changing every battery. So
AA 9-volt, it doesn't matter. You're changing it for each event.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what battery. It doesn't matter what it's in. Every battery is changed before every event. I never use them twice. Just again, what are you charging for a wedding dance, John? I mean, not you don't have to tell me what you're charging, but I mean,
oh yeah, for sure. You want to make sure though that's one area you don't want a preventable problem.
No doubt. For 70 cents, you can't buy a coffee for 70 cents anymore. You can't buy a third of a Starbucks for 70 cents.
Somebody had a question about a battery case. Now I've seen it coming. The hardware show is going to be coming up here, and that's going to be something that I'll see probably 10, 12 different companies that are really promoting battery cases as saving batteries and extending their lives. What are they talking about?
They're talking about selling you stuff.
And then I've got this elixir that'll cure your rheumatism and
unicorn storage. Actually, a friend of mine showed me a neat concept. He uses a rifle shell case to store his batteries. So I've started doing that around the shop and whatever. But for me, mine are just stored in the cardboard boxes. They come bulk boxed. It's the Pro cells come 4 into a little box, which is in a bigger box, which is in a case. And I just leave them in the cardboard box because they have a very long shelf life. I think it's 7 years or something. I've seen some batteries advertised up to 20 years, but I think the Pro cell is 7 years, but whatever, look it up. So I don't know what magical box is going to extend that life. The best thing I know to extend a battery's life is to keep it dry and at room temperature. You don't need to stick them in the fridge. Batteries tend to actually perform much worse when they're cold. Just store these things at room temperature. The battery manufacturers have figured that out.
Yeah, I remember as a child that it was a family thing. There was a box in the crisper.
Oh yeah,
it was full of batteries.
Mine too. I'm sure if I go to my parents' house right now, just pick my battles, But listen, honestly, who keeps batteries for 7 years? In our industry, are you really worried about the battery being around for 7?
If you have children, you're lucky for 7 weeks.
Yeah, like I said, I just ordered another 288 AA's and 144 9-volts. Because we churn through them pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because again, we replace them every gig, just like clockwork. Somebody out there probably thinks that's wasteful or whatever, and might be some. I mean, they still get used. They'll the rest of their life will be spent in a wireless mouse or a kid's game or something, but not in my performer's microphone or ear pack. That's where they'll not be used. I can tell you that.
So let's talk about the performers, the microphones or packs. Is there a difference in life expectancy, or I should say maybe length of time usage, between a microphone that's using a 9-volt and one that would be using 2 AA batteries? Or have the companies designed them where they basically last about the same length?
Boy, you know what? There's no real quick, fast answer to this. In fact, somebody was just asking me this question online the other day, and there are so many differences. We get into like a single frequency microphone that's crystal based versus a frequency synthesizer. Whoop, I just hit my mic. Sorry about that. Versus a frequency synthesized mic, where we're synthesizing all those tunable frequencies. Those tend to churn batteries a little faster. But there's efficiencies that are coming with wireless mic systems. I mean, it would have been incomprehensible to use AA's probably 10 years ago, with 3 volts available to you from 2 AA's. And now, of course, that's becoming really the norm.
Yes.
So I've not been able to find any equitable way to do a test, put it that way.
How about transmission distance and such, or is that not affected by the more voltage of a 9-volt compared to a 3-volt?
No, it's not really affected by that, because it comes down to power. But in order to make power, if we have less volts, we need more amps. So that is a factor, though, where if we take this wireless microphone with 10 milliwatts of power and this wireless microphone with 30 milliwatts of power, logic would tell us the 30 milliwatt transmitter is going to use batteries faster.
Gotcha.
Now, again, to me, I guess I don't want to stop anybody's curiosity here, but to me, it's a moot point because I changed the battery anyway. Some wireless mic manufacturers say the runtime is 14 hours on a set of AA batteries or, whatever on a 9-volt. I don't care. It's not getting used more than 2, I think, gosh, probably the longest continuous sound gig I've had on a wireless microphone in a long time was last night. And it was Garrison Keeler who went on for 2.5 hours nonstop. I mean, the man, I was impressed. The man did not stop for 2.5 hours. Monologue, rolling. Good for him. 74 years old. Good for him,
Wow. 2.5 hours of continuing on. He doesn't have a script. He just goes.
No, yeah. He's walking around the room, reciting memorized poems, singing songs, love him or hate him. It's an admirable thing to watch. And my batteries at the end of the night, the indicator on the receiver, which is not scientific, but was still showing 2/3 full. So
you still had time to go.
Oh, plenty. Yeah.
So we've talked about a little bit about the Pro Cell and such. Now, is there a difference? Let's just look at the AA world. Is there a difference between like a Pro Cell? I mean, what is the price is not that much difference. We had talked about that. Mm-hmm. But is there some applications that one would work better than the other, or how does a person know, or do you just buy what you feel most comfortable with?
Boy, yeah, there are differences. Sometimes the differences are pretty minute. The differences between maybe a copper top and a Pro Cell are a little more limited. It probably comes down more to construction characteristics. I think a Pro Cell's 2,850 milliamp hours. I don't know what a copper top is, but looking at the technical data sheets from Duracell, they seem to perform similarly. But actually, I've got another graph I'm going to pull up here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This shows the Duracell Quantum versus a Pro Cell. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick here.
I don't think I have
the old magic share screen button. There you go. You see that?
Yep, we do.
Okay, so here in the upper left, you see a Quantum AA.
Yep.
And Down below that, you'll see a ProCell AA, and these are being measured at constant current. But what's really interesting, if you look at this, you see 100 milliamp, 200 milliamp, 500 milliamp, and 1 amp, right? They have other charts, and we'll take a look at maybe a technical data sheet here in a second. You'll notice, first of all, that the higher the amperage, the faster the battery dies. Well, that makes sense, right? Except that it is not linear. You'll notice how incredibly fast that thing dies at 1 amp draw. You know, both of them, really. You know, you're really tugging on that battery, it's going to die quick. Batteries just aren't really, I mean, you know, they're not designed for that kind of load, really. You know, if we look here, you know, if we're at the 200 milliamp, you know, we're looking at something around the order of 12 hours of use. So, and on up to 30 hours of use, 25 in the ProCell. So here we can see the Quantum does certainly outperform the ProCell, close to 30 hours versus 25 hours for the ProCell. But I also took the liberty of putting the price on there. ProCell costs about 35 cents. The Quantum costs about 75 cents. So noting that I'm going to change it every gig anyway, is the difference of a few hours life expectancy meaningful? Not really, you know, certainly not willing to spend twice as much for the Quantum. Now, other applications, maybe, you know, you would find that justifiable. You know, maybe you don't want to change batteries every gig. Maybe it's a flashlight. I don't know, something. Yeah. What else is noticeable here is if we, you know, well, and, you know, and another application, maybe, by the way, a wireless mouse, where it's really irritating to change the batteries all the time, you know, and they have very, very low draw. So, you know, that Quantum might last nearly a lifetime. You know,
are Quantum something that can be purchased?
Oh, yeah.
As far as they're
it's just another Duracell Quantum. Yeah.
Okay. So it is a.
Yeah. You can find them in stores. You can, you know, whatever. If we take a look at the upper right here, what we'll see now is that at 0 degrees Celsius, the AA is going to, at 100 milliamp, is going to die at 15 hours. But at 21 degrees Celsius, or room temperature, it's going to last 25 hours. So we can see that temperature really affecting the battery. Now, of course, likewise, if we start getting higher than 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius, we'll start to see that life affected as well. Batteries like to be at room temperature.
So what do they recommend for batteries when you're doing something outside, like you put a sensor outside? Some of these cameras, I've seen some of these security cameras that are using batteries, like AA batteries. What would a person use in that application?
Well, I would probably stick, you know, same with, well, maybe even lithium, because I don't want to change it very often. So I might go with a lithium battery. And, you know, again, try to keep it as close to room temperature as you can, you know. And by the way, just for fun, here in the lower right, I put a 9-volt battery. So here we can see a 9-volt battery, and we can see that at, now, mind you, of course, that it's producing much more. We're talking about current here, not power. We're talking about current. So it's producing much more power at this current because it's 9 volts instead of 1.5. Okay, so that should be considered. But if we look at the 100 milliamp, it's 4 hours instead of you know, 30 hours or 25 hours. So notable. But again, it's 9 volts, not 1.5 volts. So if we look at the total power, then it might be a little bit different equation. So.
Gotcha.
Just for fun, let me pull up that data sheet real quick here. Let's take a look at that guy. This one is on your regular.
Okay, this is the Duracell copper top, which we were showing earlier.
Yep, there you go. You can see, like we said earlier, it's alkaline. It's a manganese dioxide battery. By the way, you may say, well, why in the world does it have all these size and everything? AA batteries are not all the same size, believe it or not. They're close, but they can vary. And I've seen in the case particularly, you know, or I've heard rather, maybe of rechargeables that are just a little bit bigger and then they don't fit quite right.
Yep, I found that out with some of the early rechargeables we purchased.
Yeah, so it's interesting, I think, here to see that. But here we can see, some of the things that they talk about, and here we see those constant current. Here we can see, now theoretically, if this thing is drawing 5 milliamps, it would last 650 hours, give or take. You know, of course,
What would be such a low draw as only 5 milliamps?
I can't think of anything.
'Cause it would-
But here now down here we get into power, which again, like I said, is relational to voltage and amperage, and we can see that measuring power is different. Here we have resistance. There's that temperature we looked at. So it's kind of interesting when you start looking at these things and start comparing. And it's also a bit of a challenge because they don't use a standardized format. So if you look at an Energizer versus a Duracell, and the reason I just went with all Duracell was they at least keep the same process. So it makes it easier for the viewer, I think, to just look at that and say, oh, I see the difference.
Mhm.
But for those who feel so inclined, like Howie, go research this. You can read TDSs on batteries until you're until you're tired of it, I guess.
Until your batteries run dry.
Yeah, and it's difficult too as you get across the different technologies. It's just not as cut and dry as you might want it to be.
Which makes it very difficult when you go into, and I know going into one of the big box stores and you see they've got this kind, and then they've got this prettier one, and then they've got these that are down here that are the store brand, and you're like, which ones?
Well, this guy goes by the screen name Silver Fox on the Candle Power forums. There is such a thing.
Candle Power forums.
I wish I knew this guy because he has not only a very good scientific mind, but apparently a ton of time on his hands. He did this test of dozens of different kinds of batteries, and he did AAA, AA, D cell. He ran the gamut. I'm sticking with AA because it's the most common here. But he's got Duracell, Rite Aid, Kirkland. He's got Kirkland from 2011 and Kirkland from 2013. Notably, actually, funny sidebar, he found that the 2011 Kirkland batteries outperformed the 2013 batteries. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but probably changed supplier or formula or something, but it was notable, Duracell Copper Top, Rayovac Max, E2, Ever Active, Radio Shack, good luck finding those. Energizer Max, IKEA. He just ran the gamut. This goes on and on and on, and then he charted it scientifically. Check it. Now you're probably not going to be able to see it very well, but you can go find these on the Candle Power forums. There's his results. Just for the AA's. Now that's at a 0.5 amp. What was really interesting to me, though, was that the ranking order changed at 1 amp. So you can't say this battery is consistently better than this battery because some of these were better at 0.5 amp and some of them were better at 1 amp. And that's why it's very difficult. So I would say, you could go do some extensive research, and you might say, well, yeah, that's why we're listening to you right now. It's not for entertainment value. We're listening to you. We thought you would tell us. Or I think you're probably pretty safe by and large. You get into some hair splitting here, but you could stick with some of the better known battery brands. We know that the alkaline batteries are going to outperform the zinc carbon batteries. In some cases, though, some of these store brand batteries did perform very, very well. Several of them did, in fact, outperform the copper top. But I think what the Kirkland battery may show us, and again, this is my 5-second interpretation of the data, is that there isn't consistency there, that it changed from 2011 to 2013. So I was so impressed with Silver Fox's work that I thought, I should do this. I should do this for my viewers. And then I thought about how much time this would take. And I thought, you're just going to have to take his word for it,
Exactly.
And I also felt, again, it was really a moot point because, and I've beaten this horse severely, just change the batteries. Just change them. You'll be fine. If you get any good alkaline battery or, lithium battery, or if you're going to have lithium ion batteries, have a couple sets that, if you're going to have rechargeables, you know, and just make sure you're putting in fresh batteries for every show, and make sure you have backups. There are occasionally bad batteries come out of the box. Batteries can fail. Rechargeable batteries can fail, and we can talk about that a little bit. But I don't really care if one battery lasts 15 hours and the other battery lasts 20, because I'm going to use it for 2.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get good batteries, you should be fine. And if you don't want to toss them after that and you don't have kids, I'm sure there's plenty of places you could find to take those mostly good batteries. There might be shelters or things that could use them. I don't know.
So let's talk battery tester. And the reason I'm asking this is we changed all of the 9 volts in our smoke detectors in the house. And I went from the kid batteries that were in there from the install, because they changed them out a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So we changed all the batteries out, and I put the Pro Cell in there, and I thought, these are going to last a long time. Well, a month later, one of the alarms in the middle of the night, because that's the only time they'll start chirping that the battery's low, is in the middle of the night. And I thought,
they never go bad in the middle of the day.
Yeah, precisely, when it would be easy to get to. So little ones are jumping up and running, and they think the house is going to burn down or blow up or something, because it's this beeping that's going on. But I thought to myself, is there a way that I could have predicted that by maybe testing them ahead of time to know that battery was weaker than the others? Or is it something that out of the box, initially you're not going to be able to tell their capacity, you're just going to know that initial burst of energy?
I feel like that could be a complicated question too, but 9-volt batteries should test close to 9 volts. I think the Pro Cells actually get charged up to about 9.5. But certainly if you test it and it's nowhere near 9, it's already got a diminished capacity for some reason. In a smoke detector, or something that I wouldn't want to change for a long time, I would go with a lithium battery. Not necessarily even a rechargeable, but just, like a long life lithium. We have wireless sensors in our building, and some of those batteries are several years old. In fact, some of the sensors, you can't remove the battery. When the battery goes, the sensor's done too. They have such a long lifespan. So, in fact, I think Kidde that you mentioned now makes smoke detectors where it's the same thing. Once it's done, it's dead. You just replace the whole thing. So, and
that, I think, is the direction they're definitely going. As we had ours put in, and they're like, yeah, these are going to last you about 3 to 4 years, and you should replace them because of the combination units. And when one squawks, the whole thing squawks. And
yeah, and it's interesting. We have these, like I said, wireless alarm sensors, and they're communicating by radio to a central brain box. And some of these heat and smoke sensors are, like I said, going on probably a couple of years old at this point. And, we just change them eventually, but you can't change the battery. You have to change the whole sensor.
Mm-hmm. Well, good stuff. If there's any last questions here, otherwise we're going to wrap things up. I think everyone's just been kind of following along. Okay. Potatoes work as a backup battery. I think Reggie's talking about his.
They do. So do acidic fruits and that sort of thing. One thing we didn't really talk about was rechargeables in some of the things that we have, like uplights. And I know Robin mentioned that's something.
Oh yeah. I don't even have any of those batteries around. I think those are on the other side.
That's all right. A lithium-ion rechargeable battery should last hundreds of recharge cycles, 500-600 recharge cycles. If it's not lasting, one of two things is probably at issue. It's probably not the battery has gone bad. It may be actually the charging circuit is not charging it properly anymore. But if the battery has gone bad, almost always that's from abuse. And you say, I didn't abuse my battery. Well, maybe you didn't, but maybe the charger did, but heat is very, very bad for those things. Overcharging is very bad for those things. We see that with, aftermarket phone chargers and that sort of thing, where you can do damage to your smartphone battery by using these aftermarket chargers that are not, sensing the battery like the better ones do. I mean, generally that's sort of how it works. If you buy something cheap, it's probably not as good. You know? And there's a lot of different ways that these chargers sense when that battery is charged, and it really depends on the type of battery too. So now, unfortunately, we don't have time to go into all those things at this point. Well, I don't think that might fall under the category of where the viewers don't want to go anyway. But I thought it was interesting when I thought about rechargeable batteries, and I thought about where we're using them, not just in uplights, but now in cars. And we talk about, the life of those and the tremendous cost. And, we look at things like lithium ion or, lithium polymer. And I discovered in the process of this that there's actually an event, a conference on beyond lithium ion. And lithium ion came out in the 70s, and it has been steadily getting better and better and better and better. But we're reaching those theoretical maximums of the efficiency and storage that we can expect from this technology. So I think everybody knows we have to find what's next.
Sure.
If we're really going to make the advancements we want in terms of capacity and recharge speed and all those kinds of things to really electrify our vehicles, it has to be what's next. And what's interesting to me is that this conference, Beyond Lithium Ion, is coming into its 10th year, which kind of tells you how hard it is. It's not like, let's have a conference and we got the solution. We're still having conferences 10 years later trying to figure this out. For those that are curious, it's at IBM this year in June. I'm not sure if you can go, but, you try. Say, Ben sent me, see if that gets you anywhere. But I think, Panasonic has sort of put the world on notice that they feel like they have a solid state battery coming, and that might be the next thing. It's a longer life, non-flammable electrolyte, things that, of course, we saw the fires and things with the lithium ion batteries, and that's an issue. So I'm sure we'll come up with something, and it'll be kind of fascinating to see what it is.
Yeah, wow. I guess I didn't even really think about it because lithium ion hasn't become as mainstream as it has the last 5 years. So,
like I said, lithium ion was invented before I was. So
Reggie's back to looking at his potatoes again.
You always got that going for you, Reggie. Yeah. Let's see. I'm not sure if we missed anything.
Is Tesla doing anything different with their batteries than what, I've got the Ford in there. I mean, they're using,
I don't know specifically, but
I think they're using about the same technology. It's just
well, it really is only the same technology.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, there isn't any meaningful difference. I know Tesla just dropped about $5 billion on a plant. They're certainly trying, but even they've had to admit, and he tends to be pretty futuristic in his thinking. He tends to talk about the future as though it's the present, and even he's had to kind of admit that we're not really finding a replacement for lithium ion as fast as we had wanted. So, one good thing, we talked about storage of alkalines. Let's talk about lithium ion. Here again, room temperature is good. But also best to charge them before the event, because from the minute you charge them and take them off the charger, they begin losing charge a little bit. And also best not to store them fully charged for long periods of time. That will cause the lithium ion battery to break down, more rapidly. Best if you're going to shelf the thing for 6 or 7 months to have it at about half charge. You don't really ever want it to go all the way down. And by the way, most of the quality wireless uplights, again, not everything is created equal. But most of the quality wireless uplights, they have good battery management systems in them that will shut the light off before the battery gets all the way down, because otherwise you destroy the battery. So.
And I found that the other day I had a little power pack and I had it on my iPad, and I've never left it on that long, and I just left it on by mistake and came back later. Power pack is completely dead because that little circuit that the other battery packs had didn't kick in. Whoops.
Yeah, and again, we tend to see this stuff with the influx of cheap stuff coming from overseas. Corner got cut somewhere. I mean, I get real tired of hearing it's the same thing, it's the same factory, because generally it's completely unqualified people that are saying this. I mean, and what they mean by that is, well, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even bother arguing with them anymore. It's, well, then buy it. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I do want to put this in here, since I talked about trashing batteries after every gig, or putting them into a different purpose. There are a couple places you can check out for recycling batteries. Earth911.com. It's pretty easy to remember. And call to recycle at call2recycle.org. So if you're interested in learning how to recycle your batteries, it is generally determined that it's safe to toss your alkaline batteries in the garbage. But, hey, if we can recycle something, why not?
Yeah.
So
Bendy here in the chat room basically kind of summed it up that it doesn't matter which battery you use if you're going to change it at every event. And I think the answer to that is not so much. If you're going to change them, most of them will work probably for that one event if they're decent.
Yeah, more than likely. Again, I don't want to be misunderstood. I think there's I'm not saying go buy the cheap zinc carbon batteries. I wouldn't. I'm saying that even a high quality professional alkaline battery like the Duracell Pro Cell only cost me 70 cents per transmitter. So, I don't need to go with the quantums, but even if I did, a pair of quantums is only $1.50. Again, my clients deserve 70 cents worth of batteries.
Yeah.
I think you got other shows where people talk about this, but if you're struggling to justify $1 in batteries per show, you should probably reevaluate many other things before you worry about your batteries. You probably have much bigger problems with your business plan. And I know those are kind of hurtful words, and but I want people to think about it, because I want to be able to fix those deficiencies.
Yeah.
We want you to be successful. If it's that close, you got to change something.
Good stuff. We're going to wrap things up here, gang, because we've got Brian coming in here in about 10 minutes. So a link for the second show is going to be down below in the description. You guys can grab that. Ben, thank you much for talking batteries tonight and giving us a little history and a little education in the world of our little best friends.
A pleasure as always, John.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.